Welcome to episode 60 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. Is there in truth no beauty?
In this week's episode, a creature so terrible to see that it drives humans mad to lay eyes on it, comes on board with its associate Dr. Miranda Jones and Larry Marvick, one of the designers of the Enterprise. When Marvick's jealousy leads to the ship being stranded beyond the edge of the galaxy, Spock must take part in a dangerous procedure to provide the only route home. But will he succeed, and if so, at what cost?
It's very interesting. I might even say fascinating. But back to your mission.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Gerry. How are you?
I'm okay. Let's get back to our mission.
Fair enough.
Which is?
Fascinating?
Huh.
Okay.
Possibly. Well, there is a question mark there.
Yeah.
Said last week, terrible title. Didn't like that.
For this episode?
Yeah.
You're not ever quite sure of that question?
Well, there is a question mark at the end of it, so...
Yeah, but is it rhetorical?
Could be.
Returning guest star?
Yes.
Did you enjoy the episode?
Not as much, no. There were some abhorrent behaviours.
We'll get to that.
Oh, we certainly will, yeah.
Sure we will. Did you like the point of view shots and the crazy filters?
Yeah, I did like that. I've noted that. I'll mention that when we get there. But yeah, some interesting new things I've been trying out, which is always worth noting and praising.
It's actually higher rated on IMDb than I expected. I thought this would be a poorly scored episode, but it's quite popular.
I wasn't overly impressed, I must admit.
I'm on the same page as you.
Good.
Shall we get into it?
Why not? Let's crack on. Captain's log 5630.7. What's happening?
They're conveying the Medusan's ambassador to the Federation back to its home planet. There's a warning though, because the Medusans are hideous.
Yeah, apparently so physically ugly that the mere sight of them brings total madness to any human being. I can think of a few people that can induce that.
Well, some folk have tolerated it, but others have indeed been driven to madness, as you'll learn from watching certain television channels.
Yeah.
But apparently they have sublime thoughts, and they're very good at navigation, so it's not all bad.
In the transporter room, Kirk welcomes on board Larry Marvick. Apparently he's James Garner's brother.
Is that true?
No, it's a joke on Maverick. Doesn't matter. You don't know if it... No, okay, never mind.
Is that a Top Gun reference?
Anyway, he warns Kirk and Scotty that they need to leave before the Medusan Kolos arrives.
He's quite agitated, isn't it? As if they don't know or something. But
yeah, if this is such a... It's like bringing on board some sort of radiation or something. You be prepared in advance.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. He doesn't need to come on and tell them. Well, at least you'd hope so.
Yeah. Anyway, the ambassador's name is Kolos, although I think he pronounced it Kalos.
Does he?
No.
I have it down as Kolos.
Kolos, yeah. That's just I read it somewhere. That it's from the Greek, whatever it's meant to be pronounced, Kalos. But I'll call him Kolos.
Call him whatever you want. He's not going to argue.
Okay, alright, it's easier to write Kolos than the ambassador, so I always refer to him as Kolos.
Captain K. No, that's confusing. You can't do that.
No.
Ambassador K. Marvick asks whether Spock has the visor.
Yeah, it's okay for Spock to remain as long as he wears a visor, because being half Vulcan, he wouldn't receive the full effect that a human would.
No. Although he is half human.
Yeah, he'll receive half the effect.
Yeah. He'll go half mad.
Half mad, that's fine.
Yeah.
He then leaves with Scotty, who's very impressed to be meeting who?
Yes, one of the designers of the Enterprise. A plot point that they didn't really dig into well enough, I thought.
They didn't at all, and this was almost I've noticed here, it was dropped in as they walked out. It was almost like it was the fading out.
Yeah.
This piece of information, it should be something more of it should have been made.
He should be more celebrated, or at least recognised for that, rather than just being a guy who's happening to come along.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's, you could be asking about things that, praising him for the things that work well, and also saying, do you know what? Why didn't you do this? We've now been living on here for however many years, and as providing sort of real user feedback.
Yeah, and you could have had him getting defensive about it and saying,
possible defensive, or saying, yeah, good point. The new one I'm designing has a addressed these issues,
Yeah.
or will address them now. Thanks for your thoughts on the matter.
Instead, it gets mentioned and then dropped.
Yeah. Kirk then warns Spock to be careful before he too leaves, and Spock puts on his red visor and beams aboard Kolos and his translator.
Yeah, but Kolos is in a box, so Spock didn't need the visor after all. You'd think they would have told him that before.
Perhaps it's just a precautionary measure.
In case it burst open.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Who's the translator?
it's Dr. Miranda Jones, who looks familiar.
She does, yes.
We've seen her before.
I'm sure you'll get to that in the trivia.
No. I'll say it's our second appearance. We'll just give you a preview of that right now.
She takes off her visor and gives Spock the Vulcan peace sign and tells him the ambassador is most honoured to meet him from the gold box in which he resides.
Yeah, we get the credits briefly, and then we're back to the same room where Spock, I think he's putting an anti-gravity handle on the box so he can carry the ambassador around.
Yeah.
And he tells Kirk over comms that they are ready.
Yes, and Kirk then informs everyone on board to clear the decks as the ambassador will soon be taken to his quarters. So they've all got to disappear in case they catch it. But surely, the ambassador here isn't malevolent. He's not a threat.
No.
So what's he going to do? Spring out and say, "I got you. You're now all." No.
Maybe the box could fail and they just being careful.
Yeah, well, I suppose maybe, but seems a little bit.
They probably shouldn't make it with springs.
No.
We handle these.
Yeah. We are now in the corridor, and because it's been cleared, Spock and Jones are able to carry the ambassador and discuss in more detail what her objective is.
Dr. Jones, may I congratulate you on your assignment with Ambassador Kolos.
Thank you. But the assignment's not yet definite. It will depend upon my ability to achieve a true mind link with the ambassador.
I'm sure you will find it a fascinating experience.
I wasn't aware that anyone had ever achieved a mind link with the Medusans.
No one ever has. I was referring to mind links I had attempted with members of other species.
I've heard, Mr. Spock, that you turned down the assignment with the ambassador.
I was unable to accept. My life is here.
He says his life was here, that's why he turned down the assignment, but surely it's not a lifelong...
Oh no, I think it is quite a long-term assignment, yeah.
Right, is it?
Embedding on the Medusan planet.
Ah, okay.
That's where they're going.
Sure. I thought it was a one-off thing.
Yeah, no, I think the plan is for someone to long-term spend time with the ambassador and build up relations.
Fair enough. They arrive safely in the ambassador's quarters. Spock communicates with Kirk, who then tells Chekhov to take them out of orbit at Warp 2.
And I think the rest of the crew are advised they can go back in the corridors.
Yeah, it's all fine now.
Back in Kolos's room, Spock removes the anti-gravity handle from his box and asks Dr. Jones whether he can exchange greetings with the ambassador.
Yeah, I think she hesitates for a moment, but responds to tell him that he would be charmed. And so, what does Spock do?
Well, the box opens a little and a green light fills the room. We get sort of kaleidoscopic images, and then the lid shuts.
Yeah, after a few seconds, at which point Spock tells Jones that he almost envies her assignment, and she notes that she senses he is tempted to take her place.
She is immediately, though, corrected by Spock, who says, "I felt you trying to read my mind, but you didn't, and you're wrong."
And then he asks if she was born a telepath.
Yes, and she says she was, which is why she was sent away to study on Vulcan.
And then declines to be shown to her quarters, preferring to stay with Kolos for a while.
He doesn't like the transporter, and Spock notes that McCoy is much the same.
Yes. And as soon as he leaves, she removes her visor and asks Kolos what Spock sees when he looks at him as the box opens.
Yes, the green light fills the room again, and I think we're meant to believe she's exposed herself to the madness.
Yes. Well, we're thinking, what are you doing? You're crazy. Why are you doing this? We know how dangerous it is. And you're a human. You're not Vulcan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't know for sure she's human yet, but we do find out that she is human.
We go to the dining room.
This is a problematic scene for me.
This is a horrible scene.
I've written here, it's a melting pot of misogyny. headlined by Kirk, but with appalling cameos from McCoy and Scotty.
Yeah, I mean, I think McCoy is actually probably worse than Kirk.
Would you say?
I think so. He's certainly up there.
Well, Kirk's the one that sets the tone.
He doesn't. First of all, as well, why are they all dressed up? Scotty's got his kilt and that on. Give it a break.
There's a lady in the ship.
Oh, they're all pandering, simpering, but with an underlying.
I mean, they're all wearing their dress uniforms as well.
Yeah.
And even Spock's gone a little bit over the top.
She's just a translator.
Yeah.
She's not. What is this? She's not the ambassador.
The ambassador's not even invited to the party.
He's stuck in a box somewhere.
It's Marvick and Jones, and that's it. Yeah.
Seriously, if you think about it in real life, there's some ambassadors and they come from they've got a, maybe it's a Chinese ambassador and they've got a translator.
Yeah. They put them in a box.
You would just leave him somewhere and
He's
then
too hideous.
swoon over his translator all night.
No. No. But
So I mean, that establishes it's not because of her position, therefore. So they're doing it only because they think she's a hot woman.
and I guess they feel it's a formal thing when they're carrying dignitaries, but the dignitary, like I say, is not there.
Oh, she's just staff.
Yeah. Well, Marvick's there as well.
Yeah, but they're ignoring Marvick. He's not.
Nobody cares about Marvick.
Kirk and Jones are dining. At first, we don't see it's the whole lot of them.
Yeah.
He thinks that he's being charming, but is being sexist by asking why the males of the Federation let her go with Kolos. It's like, you're too beautiful to have a job. We should have kept you for our own pleasure.
Yeah. And continues that he's glad they did so that he was able to meet her.
He's like, just a creepy. They're all slimy and creepy in this scene. Well, generally they are, and Kirk's terrible for it.
This is nauseating, though. This is
horrible.
Over the top. Yeah.
Not just nauseating. I think it's worse than that, but it's really quite offensive. Like how they're treating her, how they're
And the fact that
pressure.
all of them,
It's like a gang.
Yes, it's the accumulation. There's no pressure release. There's no one who can chip in and give an alternative.
I'd imagine it could be quite intimidating.
I would have thought it'd be terrifying. Yeah. You'd be worried to say the wrong
And
thing.
it gets worse. Okay, so we'll carry on. We see they're not alone, as Spock, McCoy, Scotty and Marvick are all sitting around the table, as Kirk asks her why Kolos does not affect her like other humans.
Yeah, so she and Spock combine to tell the story about her being a telepath studying on Vulcan and how important it is as a telepath to learn how to shut out the thoughts of others and not just learn to read them.
Yeah, this gets a sympathetic response from McCoy.
Yeah. Why would he know? At this point, Jones takes offence to Spock's Vulcan idic symbol, along with all the viewers who know why it's on screen, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, I think, does she suggest it's a reminder that he can mind link?
She basically thinks he's done it to show how much more
qualified
or his superior aptitude for mental skills.
Mm-hmm.
But Kirk immediately insists that I don't think he's done it to upset you.
And Spock adds that he is in fact wearing it to honour her.
That makes no sense either.
No, which Kirk thinks is fascinating, as we heard at the top of the podcast there.
She finds it dubious, and I agree with her.
Yeah, I don't understand how that could be an honour.
And also, why would you be honouring her?
Exactly, she's a translator.
Yeah, there's no reason to, yeah.
This is so... It doesn't make any sense at any level.
No.
So if you get someone coming along who's, training to be a doctor... Why would you? And you put on
to
bring
be fair,
your
she
qualification and show it to her and go, I'm a doctor, I've got this qualification. Why? No.
She is trying to do something that nobody's done before. She's a human trying to establish a telepathic link with a species that nobody has been able to communicate with directly previously. But they've obviously been able to communicate indirectly because they've got ambassadors. They've got a connection between the species already. I don't know how big a deal it is what she's doing. Even if it is a big deal, it's not this big a deal.
Doesn't seem like it. I mean, I will take your point. She's more than just a translator. Yeah, she's trying to establish this link. But yeah, still, look, she can't be the only one.
Well, I think she is the only one.
Yeah, but there's Vulcans out there as well.
Yeah, who could presumably do it. Yeah, she's the first human.
Yeah, oh, well. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be a human.
No.
If you need the job done, just get whoever's most qualified for it here.
But Kirk then raises the issue that once she establishes this link, they can use the Medusans for their own benefit.
Yeah, as navigators on starships, as it would be quite beneficial. She tells him that the key is a mind link that she got from Vulcan. That's how you would do it.
So why don't they just use Vulcans to do this?
I think that's my point, yeah.
I don't get it. Anyway, the idea is that this is why Larry's here, obviously. Mm-hmm. She's going to establish, this is a project, she's going to establish this mind link, find out how they can adapt starships to be navigated by Medusans.
Why?
Larry's going to make the adaptations to his designs, and all the Medusans are going to come over and be our pilots.
Yeah, like us, McCoy's not convinced and thinks it is suicidal that she has agreed to work with creatures that are so ugly they can drive humans mad.
Spock says that McCoy is expressing outdated notions, equating beautiful and good when these terms are not connected.
Yeah, and Marvick points out the reverse is also true. Now, that is the only, I think, in this scene, certainly, the only sentiment that is, still stands up. Is worthwhile.
Kirk even comes out with the most significant piece of nonsense for some time when he says their last prejudice, no, they've expressed many prejudices, misogyny in this very scene, but anyway, their last prejudice is to be attracted to beauty and repelled by ugliness.
It's just crazy. He sets his creep factor to 11 next by toasting Jones as the loveliest human ever to grace a starship. Well, that's not true for a start, but anyway.
It also flies right in the face of what Spock and Jones have just said.
Exactly. He doesn't read the room at all. He's just like, I'm ignoring what you said. Yeah, you're hot. Toast your hotness. So that's the thing. I mean, we're asking, we can't get our head around why they're honouring her so much and they're making such a big deal. Is it simply because she's hot in their eyes? And if she was quite ugly, right? If she was plain, would they be like, yeah, you're doing all right, hen. Well done. We'll see you in the morning.
Probably, yeah.
We're not all getting dressed up in.
Well, they might have had a very short dinner to say.
Yeah, shake her hand.
On board, we'll see.
Give her a little pat in the back and say well done.
A few entrees and then get on with it.
Yeah, but no. They're all got their finery, their finest gear on, and
yeah. Well, McCoy's about to turn the creep factor up to 12.
Oh yeah. Well, yes. He takes it a step further by rhetorically asking, "What?
Why?" Well, he says that gentlemen, the men in the room, he refers to as gentlemen, should not allow, as if it's up to them, one so beautiful, as if that matters, to condemn herself to look upon ugliness the rest of her life.
My note here is WTF.
Well, indeed.
What?
It's just garbage, and she quite rightly picks up on this, countering by saying, how can someone as full of joy and the love of life as McCoy, which I think is taking the mickey out of him slightly, could condemn himself to look upon disease and suffering, and then she similarly calls on the gentleman not to allow it. And
touche.
The point's well made, but they all ignore it.
They do, and they previously agreed with McCoy that they can't allow this to happen.
Yeah.
It is disgusting, actually, this attitude, this behaviour.
No, absolutely.
Reprehensible.
Very much so.
They're just acting like scumbags.
It's not even funny.
Even back in the I'm not even sure that like in the 60s that would be acceptable. Did they think this was okay behaviour? These are the stars of the show. These are people, these are the heroes. You're meant to get behind them and go, yeah, guys, did they think this was good? I mean,
it's this whole sort of save the day, get the girl sort of trope. It's garbage.
Again, I think it's the whole sort of gang element of it here. They're all doing it. Normally, you have to put up with Kirk doing it or Scotty becoming a bit of a one at a time. The other ones try and discourage or stop it, but they're now all on her.
Yeah, at least she stands up for herself, even if nobody else does.
Yeah. She
then gets a bit of a fright because she senses telepathically someone is thinking of murder.
Scotty.
Always Scotty.
Oh, Scotty. Since she said it, Scotty's like that, looking down. What?
I don't remember.
No. She breaks out of her mini trance, but has lost the connection and can't tell him who it is. Before excusing herself, but not before Kirk is again massively creepy by holding her hands and telling her to sleep well.
Well, Kirk, Spock and McCoy all separately offered to walk her back to her quarters.
As she's going to McCoy accosts her, takes it to another level by kissing her hand and asking if she's well enough to get to her room alone. He's a freak.
I don't understand.
It's like someone praying at...
Are you well enough? Do you need a doctor?
It's almost like, like someone who's really drunk. Can you stand? Well, do you want me to take you to your back to your house or your room? I can help you. You're obviously incapable here.
Even once she's gone, they don't ease off.
No. She escapes and all the lads agree how wonderful she is, apart from Marvick, who warns them all to treat her appropriately before he too leaves.
Scotty challenges him to come down the engine room and show what he knows.
And drink some scotch like a man and talk about boobs. Jones and things. Yeah.
He declines.
Yeah,
sensibly.
Seems a decent guy, this Marvick.
Yeah, and well,
it seems, I said.
We'll see. They both leave, and Kirk now praises how smart everybody looks.
Spock then says goodnight, but not before insisting his address was an attempt at honouring Jones again.
It's like, I wasn't trying to...
I know. And finally, Kirk sits with McCoy, who admits that he thinks Jones is vulnerable. That's exactly what I said. He's a predator.
Why were you behaving this way knowing that?
A predator.
I've tried to take advantage and it hasn't happened. Kirk tries to brush it off, being a misogynist himself.
Yeah, quite a woman she is, isn't she? She's quite a little lady.
And McCoy says there's something disturbing about her. But Kirk is completely smitten and says, yeah, like you say, quite a woman.
And they all
leave.
Yeah, dearie me. Yeah, so that scene, I think, of all the scenes we have watched so far in the show, it's the most disturbing, the most distasteful, the one that you think, you know what, you guys are scumbags.
Yeah. But then the one you would suspect the least is about to raise the ante in the next scene.
What happens?
So Larry shows up at Miranda's door.
Again, this is the really sort of creepy, this stalkerish behaviour.
Yeah.
Leave her alone.
So you owe me your attention. Let me in.
Yeah. He's a pathetic sad sack.
She tries to get him to leave and he says it's important, so she does let him in, whereupon he complains about their dinner.
He does, yeah. He redeclares his love of her and begs her not to go with Kolos before kissing her.
Aggressively, without any response.
Yeah, it's very awkward. In a way, he tells her that Kolos can't. Yeah, Kolos in a box. He's a... whatever he is. What is Kolos anyway?
We don't know.
He's like just some sort of
He's just
gaseous
a really
entity,
ugly
or
being.
Is he physical? Can you touch him?
Don't know. You can't get close enough.
Is it an
without going
energy?
mad.
I don't know. Yeah.
Surely you could just close your eyes and get close to him.
Yeah.
Stroke him.
Stroking Kolos. Nice. However, she is unmoved and makes it clear she doesn't feel the same way and confirms that she is going with Kolos, telling him to beat it. But just then, she uses her powers and realises that it was the incel Marvik who had murder on his mind.
So it's you. I didn't know that it was you before. Who is it you want to kill, Larry? Is it me? You mustn't keep this to yourself. I want to help you.
So now you want to help me? Now I know what a mere human male has to do to get a reaction out of you. Make you think he's a patient. A great psychologist. Why don't you try being a woman for a change?
Trump card played there in the misogynist game. I think he's won.
When you say trump card,
well,
he's a disgrace like the rest of them. You act like a woman. It's almost like, being knocked back and calling her a lesbian.
Know your role. Get in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He leaves and starts walking along the corridor and then stops, turns and goes back to Kolos's quarters.
And tries to kill it with a phaser.
Yeah, but Marvik is caught out because Kolos just opens his lid.
And he gets blasted with green and shapes before running into the turbolift in agony and holding his face. And sensing something is wrong, Jones arrived to find the phaser on the floor as we see Marvik exit the lift and punch a red shirt as he heads to engineering.
Yes, so Kirk and some security guys followed by Spock and McCoy.
Don't get this. Why are they there? How do they...
I assume Miranda's raised the alarm.
I
don't see it happen.
I assume there's a missing scene here because there's absolutely no reason why Kirk, Spock and McCoy arrive with two security guards asking if Kolos is hurt.
Something's missing, but obviously the alarm's been raised.
I don't think that she would do that. I don't think she might sense something. I'm not sure she would immediately call for help.
Maybe Kolos called for help.
What do you mean call for help? He's just...
Someone's tried to kill me.
Help. I think there's a missing scene
Maybe
here.
got a wee red cord that he pulls.
So he asks if Kolos is hurt and who could have done such a thing.
We kind of jump backwards and forwards between the corridor where they are and engineering where Marvik's looking for Scotty.
Yeah. I think she tells Kirk that it was Marvik and that he saw the Medusan, which Spock states will mean dangerous insanity will follow.
Yes. Meanwhile, Scotty sees Marvik and thinks he's here to take him up on his bet.
Totally oblivious to what's going on. Yeah, he is happy to hand over the controls.
Yes.
And promises him a bottle later on. But the smile is wiped off his face within seconds when Kirk communicates.
He says that the dangerously insane Marvick should be watched out for.
Yeah.
So Scotty's trying to move Marvick away from the controls at this point, but as usual, is outmuscled, outfought, and unable to prevent the madman.
Yeah, and this is one of the scenes where we've got some interesting camera angles and shots.
Yep.
Something new, it was different, which was well worth noting. Yeah, Scotty's terrible, and red shirts, they're just dreadful at fighting.
Yeah. 3 of Starfleet's finest? No, they're not. They are useless, and they are dumped in a pile as Marvick sends the Enterprise off course, and we don't know where.
Up on the bridge, they are jolted about, and Sulu tells Kirk they are travelling now at warp 8.5 and getting faster. Engineering isn't answering communications, and they're now up to warp 9 as Spock tries to disengage from the bridge with the help of Chekhov.
This is where you get underneath with your screwdriver, and we've seen Spock do this before. Remember that time he set it on fire?
Yeah.
Yeah. Eventually, Uhura does get hold of engineering, and Marvick speaks to the bridge.
Yeah, he's rambling on about dreams and all sorts of other nonsense. And so Jones and Kirk head down to get him.
In engineering, Marvick declares that they'll be safe beyond the boundary of the universe. And Kirk and 3 security guys finally drag him away from the controls just as the ship goes through the galactic boundary.
Yeah, some sort of psychedelic boundary.
It's fortunate that Miranda has telepathic powers and not ESP.
Why?
Or she turned to a god,
Ah, okay. Yeah.
that we saw earlier in the series.
Mm-hmm.
They don't seem to refer to that ever again.
Never. Realising what has happened, Kirk asks where they are, and Marvick tells them, as you mentioned, they're beyond the boundaries of the galaxy, but they're now safe.
Kirk has Bones sedate him, but before he can, Marvick, who they know to be insane, begs not to be put to sleep, and they don't. That was a bit odd.
It was.
Scotty's got a problem, though. They can't identify where they are using star charts because there's no points of reference. We're going to come back to that issue shortly. But before they can, Marvick realises that Miranda is there with them.
His radiometer is quickly turned on. He thinks that she has brought Kolos with her. He lunges at her to strangle her and calls her a liar.
Yes, he is pulled away, says he loves her, and dies.
Pretty much it, yeah.
So the captain does a wee log, where we find out it's 5630.8, and the Enterprise is derelict in uncharted space with no way to determine their position in respect to the galaxy.
Yeah, they're in a bit of trouble, aren't they?
They're in a void.
Up on the bridge, Spock confirms that they are far outside their own galaxy and are in a space-time continuum. McCoy arrives with the autopsy results.
Surely everything's the space-time continuum.
Well, you'd like to think so.
Anyway, McCoy's autopsy is useless.
Yeah, cannot determine what the cause of death was, and so they surmise that he simply couldn't live with what he saw or felt.
Yeah,
It's just
great doctor work there, yeah.
Making stuff up. Scotty has better news.
Yeah, they need a few wee repairs, but they're intact.
But they have no way of determining where they are and have no reference points to plot the return course.
I like it at this point, Chekhov tries to make a joke and Spock just says that's unhelpful.
Yeah, I think he says that it was a madman that got them in there. They need a madman to get them out. There's only someone...
Shut up, Chekhov.
Yeah.
It's like Baldry.
Yes. He dismisses this, but Kirk says there is someone else who can help them. Kolos. Spock agrees it may be possible, and that due to the emergency, he could become Kolos.
Explain.
Fusion. A mind link to create a double entity. Each of us would enjoy the knowledge and sensory capabilities of both. We will function as one being.
Hazards?
If the link is successful, there will be a tendency to lose separate identity. A necessary risk. Of course, Dr. Jones will not wish to give me permission to accomplish the mind link.
I don't think she'll want anyone to intrude in the kind of rapport she has with Collis.
Dr. Jones has shown reluctance every time I've asked to converse with Collis. In some ways, she is still most human, Captain, particularly in the depth of her jealousy.
I could confine her to quarters.
Not sufficient. Her telepathic powers are formidable. If it is at all possible, her mind must be so engaged that no thought of what I am doing shall intrude.
I think that could be arranged.
No, but we can see where this is going. This is not another situation where you can F your way out of things.
Kirk fires up his loins, that's what my notes say.
Really?
He's ready to go. He has a foolproof plan. It's worked many times.
No one can resist it. So we go to the nursery?
Conservatory? I don't know.
Yeah.
Arboretum?
Kirk takes Jones here where she is, of course, beguiled by the flowers and then by Kirk, who tries to use a thorn prick to slide his way into her. Not the only prick in this scene.
No, nor the biggest one.
Initially, she resists, and he plays on her emotions by claiming what?
Yeah, he tells her not to feel responsible for Marvick's actions, and she just says that she doesn't love him. It's not really her fault.
But Kirk presses on, claiming that one day she will want human love and companionship. You tell her, Kirk, what she'll want, yeah.
Exactly. Dictate. She is human and therefore must want exactly what I think she wants.
Yep, and probably from me.
And she says that that is not the case because an emotional relationship with a human would be testing to her mental health, essentially, because she wouldn't be able to keep out all the feelings from the other person. Pity being the worst. We then see Spock with the visor marching down the corridor, looking determined. And we go back to Kirk, who asks whether Jones is willing to spend the rest of her life with the Medusans to avoid human emotion. And she says, maybe, and he turns up the creep.
Yeah, he won't let it go, and says that a meeting of minds is fine. But what about
Yes, she's young, attractive, and human, and one day she will yearn for someone who's not ugly.
It's really just, they keep, like, she's here to
It's
do
so
a job.
superficial as well.
It's so superficial, yeah, that's a given. But here's the thing. She is on a mission from the Federation. She's here to do a job. They're trying to persuade her, because they think she's quite hot, that she should not do what she's doing. This has been agreed. This is a massive project that the Federation have invested.
Oh, this is just a distraction. He's not actually trying to persuade her not to do it.
But what if she does agree with him?
Well, yeah, there's that, yeah. He then moves in for his standard kiss.
And what happens?
Standard orbit, I suppose you might call it. He's rebuffed, and she calls him a complicated man, as we see Spock entering Kolos quarters.
Kirk tries again with his nauseating charm by claiming that it's a very romantic setting. Is it really? It's just some flowers. It's not a romantic setting.
There's no moonlight, or
you wouldn't go to a local like Dobie's garden centre and go, this is romantic, isn't it? No, it's not at all.
Some folk are trying to imply, or have implied, that this is a holographic setting and there is moonlight and stuff like that you can't see, because I think Gene Roddenberry had promised a holographic environment for the future series if it continued.
Yeah,
but
some folk claim
really
all sorts of stuff.
Well, they had it for the time you get to Next Generation. You've got holographic stuff going on.
Okay.
Anyway, suddenly they are forced to stop their little game because Miranda realises what is up.
Yeah, she senses what Spock is doing and insists that Kirk let her go, as they have no idea how dangerous the thing is that they are planning.
Kirk immediately, yeah, okay, let's go.
Out in the corridor, they arrive just as Spock exits from Kolos's room.
He's obviously had a conversation with the Medusan.
He tells her that as the Enterprise is at risk, she cannot be involved. However, she responds that she has already committed to the mind link when she and Kolos reach the Medusan vessel, and asks why he is putting himself in danger.
He says it's maybe the case that she's better at mind linking than he is, but she can't fly the ship, and she insists that it would be easier to teach her to fly a ship than somebody else to mind link. But McCoy has got a bombshell to drop, having just showed up for no reason.
What's that?
She's blind, can't fly a ship. This makes no sense to me.
No, I think if all the things that are impractical or near impossible, a blind person flying a ship or even a plane is possible. These days, a blind person could.
Well, yeah.
Technically.
And even in the Enterprise, almost nothing is done visually. It's all sensors.
Of course, yeah, there's not
if she's got a system that can give her information from sensors already,
yeah,
they can give her the information from the ship's sensors.
Of course.
Just as easily.
Yeah. I mean, they're in space. You can't really crash. Other than planets and things, there's not a lot to crash into.
No, exactly. I think that they are just being possessive of their own ship, protective of their own ship. They just want Spock to do it. I think part of it is that they don't trust her as well.
Spock then compliments her and her dressmaker, who has evidently produced a sophisticated sensor web.
Exciting.
Kirk now acts as if as if it was obvious all along. Yeah, of course, that's the...
I never fancied her. Anyway, yes, Kirk then remembers her aversion to pity, which must be why she hides the blindness, because everyone would pity a blind person. That doesn't make sense either. Anyway, she shows off some of the data available to her by counting the distance to the door and saying she can tell Kirk his rate of his heartbeat and anything else.
And could even beat him at tennis.
No doubt. He's probably as bad at that as Spock is at chess.
Yeah, can you imagine Kirk trying to play tennis?
He'd have his shirt off, he'd be running around in like shorts and socks.
But getting angry when he keeps getting beat. However,
Kirk just makes the decision. Spock's doing it, and that's that. And McCoy says, "Don't fight us."
And so,
she's not persuaded though.
No. She enters and approaches the box.
Yeah, she's going to discuss it with Kolos on Kirk's invitation.
As she does, Kirk demands to know from McCoy why he didn't tell him that she was blind.
Yeah, and he says, well, if she'd wanted you to know, she'd have said it herself.
I disagree with this point here. Generally, yes, in normal life that would be the case. But in this situation where it's in a professional capacity, knowing that she's blind might be, yeah.
I mean, she was deliberately hiding it. You saw her, she didn't need to wear a visor, and she was wearing a visor.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose McCoy just felt that there was no reason, but I don't think that's the kind of thing you would...
No.
He's got a job to do.
That's what I'm saying. In a professional environment, it's like your medical records. If someone came to work and they're pretending they weren't blind and you found out they weren't, but he's blind, there could be issues here. We need to know this.
Yeah, it's not the kind of thing. It's not like McCoy would say, oh yeah, by the way, she's blind when she's in the room.
No.
Just say to her in advance as part of the briefing.
Yeah.
This woman, she's blind and all this.
Of course.
We hear a scream at this point from inside the room, and then she comes out quite calmly and agrees to let Spock go ahead. I don't know what the scream was.
He, like the rest of the guys, inappropriately touched her.
He may be.
Made a grab at her.
Do we even know Kolos' gender? Does he get called he?
I think he does. I'm not sure.
Anyway, we get another brief captain's log.
It was a supplemental log, I think.
Yes, and it doesn't say much.
Well, it says their only chance to return home lies with the navigational skills of Kolos, and so he has been brought to the bridge behind a shield.
It's literally like a bit of
well, it's one of those separators you get in an office.
Yeah,
to separate.
There's one right here.
Yeah,
where we're sitting.
Yeah, it won't protect you from. Where are they getting this type? Is it just the visual then? The shield, because the visor's made out of. Is it just a normal visor, like you would play bankers would have, or you would play poker with?
Yeah,
because they won't have a shield made of any specific substance.
Well, no, but the humans can't look at him at all. It's only Spock that's got the visor because he's Vulcan.
But that's what I'm saying. Is as long as you're behind a door, you're okay. You could put your hand up; it would be fine.
I assume so.
Yeah, okay, fine.
So Kolos is over by Spock's station, and Spock, wearing his visor, goes round to meet with him, and then comes back out and appears to have merged with Kolos.
Yeah, I like this bit. They were sort of, the rest of the crew are waiting with anticipation, a bit like family members in a hospital waiting room if they've had an emergency operation. Tell me, Doc, is it okay? What's the result?
It reminded me a bit of Return to Tomorrow when Kirk and Spock and the woman were possessed by the orb people.
The orb people.
Anyway, Kolos Spock acquaints himself with the bridge and the crew, talks about them all, and then apologises for the trouble that he's caused, but Kirk assures him they do not blame him.
Well, he's skipping over the fact that he starts quoting Byron.
Yes.
To Ahura.
Yes.
And he's got a big Cheshire cat grin on his face.
Yes.
Okay.
But those things are true. Sulu releases the helm to him, and they very quickly navigate back to familiar space, to the great delight and surprise of Chekhov, exactly where they left it.
Yeah, it was a pretty straight... There's still 10 minutes of the episode to go. I'm thinking, oh, that's a quick one.
Yeah, they've solved that very easily.
Kirk thanks him as Kolos appreciates the body that he is in and marvels at the language on which they depend, but pities their apparent loneliness that they have to endure in their individual shells.
Yeah, and Kirk, having learned from previous incidents, urges him to get out of Spock's body immediately.
Yeah, he reluctantly... I mean, I thought perhaps Kolos was going to... do the squatting thing. No, I'm happy. I'm here now. I'll do this give me a few more. Give me 24 hours.
Yeah, but no, he acknowledges the wisdom of Kirk, and they head off behind the screen to.
However, they make a big mistake here.
They do. Sulu notices that Spock forgot his visor.
We hear Spock scream in pain, and when he reappears, we can see from the fisheye point of view shot that he's distressed and, more worryingly, aggressive.
Yes, he tries to fight everybody, but Kirk is able to stun him. McCoy, this is always the case. Someone gets stunned. They should know how this works. He gets stunned, he's stunned. And McCoy's like, he's barely breathing. It's all gone wrong this one time, again.
So up in sickbay, Jones is tending to Spock inside, whilst McCoy and Kirk consider the risks and chances of him surviving.
Unless Miranda can look down into his mind and turn it outward to us, we will lose Spock.
Vulcan mind techniques, they seem so untrustworthy now that Spock's life is at stake.
Our knowledge of them may be the only thing that could save Spock's sanity, perhaps even his own life.
But does she want to? She's been in there so long.
There's nothing else to be done.
She's tried to help Marvick. Marvick is dead.
That's different. Marvick loved her.
And Spock is her rival. Is that any better? Even Spock felt the violence of her jealousy.
But they weren't rivals in love. Jim, you shouldn't go in there.
Whatever happens, Bones, don't interfere.
So Kirk enters the room where Miranda is attending to Spock without her sensor web.
Why?
To deepen the connection, she doesn't want to have other outside stimuli.
Kirk identifies himself because she doesn't know who
Yeah, she asks if it's McCoy, I think, at first, and he challenges her.
In what way?
He says she's not doing much. And she thinks he's being ridiculous again, says, do you expect me to wake him with a kiss?
He says, yeah, he's not a machine. That's... again.
And this scene, I've got problems with this scene as well, but he starts to unload on her, calling her less human than Spock, saying that she wants him to die and probably influenced him using her telepathy not to wear the visor. She's jealous of him, and Kirk is going to make her hear all the ugliness that she can't see.
Yeah.
He says that she's going to let Spock die because he saw Kolos and she can't.
She screams her denials again, and he pushes her against a wall and repeats the claims, causing her to call him I quite like this, a sadistic, filthy liar.
He tells her that Kolos knows what's in her heart and she cannot lie to him.
She begs him to stop and to go away. She's really quite distressed here.
I mean, he does stop and go away at least.
Yeah, he returns to McCoy outside. He admits to him that perhaps he was right and maybe he shouldn't have went in. And and he is unsure that she can stand to hear the truth.
He's just made this stuff up.
And
he's got no evidence.
He's not, and that he may be responsible if Spock dies. Yeah, you might well be. In fact, no, you will be.
Probably, yeah.
You just made all this up, yeah.
There's no basis for thinking any of this stuff.
Nope. Back inside, it looks like... I think, was she listening to what he was saying? I'm not sure, because she was over in the corner.
No, I don't think so.
Right, okay.
She goes over and touches Spock on the forehead.
Yes, to begin a mind link. And after a number of dramatic, quick-cut flashbacks, he comes around and puts his hands on her temples as the process finishes.
We then see Spock staggering out of the door, and McCoy helps him to a seat in the office. Kirk goes into the room to look for Miranda, but she's gone.
Yeah, that didn't seem... I don't know.
The episode then resolves itself.
It does, yeah.
In between this scene and the next.
I'm sure it'll be fine. The audience can fill in the blanks.
Yes, just imagine what happens next. We're now at the transporter room and they're leaving.
Jones arrives as Spock packs up Kolos onto the transporter pod as McCoy and Kirk say their goodbyes like characters from The Wizard of Oz.
Spock's got his little badge on again, and Miranda's wearing her sensor net that she'd had off in the last scene. And McCoy notes that she has now achieved what she most wanted. I think she's achieved a true mind link with Kolos in between those two scenes.
Yeah, all she needs to do is click her heels and say, I want to go home, and that'll be it.
There was no need to show us any of that or even say it properly. She's one with Kolos, and McCoy's sad that she's leaving, and then he leaves.
Yep. Then I think is it Kirk she thanks for his words which let her see the truth, apparently.
He's surprised she's talking to him, but he gives her a rose and she...
Just leave it. He's still at this stage being creepy. Be professional here.
Yeah, she asks if it has a thorn, and he says that he's never met one that didn't. Basically saying she's a rose who has a thorn because she was trying to kill Spock. I don't know. But it's fine because she didn't.
And then her and Spock talk a bit of nonsense. I couldn't even be bothered writing it down.
Some sort of joy about joining with Kolos, and he rejoices in her knowledge and achievement, and then they remark on the glory of infinite diversity.
Yeah, very good. They exchange the Vulcan peace sign and she's sent off.
He puts his visor on, Kirk doesn't bother, and they beam out.
Uh-huh.
And that's the end. Off for another adventure.
Yeah. Like we said at the start, it's an uncomfortable episode with characters who are very unendearing.
Unlikable.
Really unlikable, yeah.
Yeah.
And not just in, looking at it from 2021. I think even back then, as I said, it would be quite unsavoury behaviour.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's as popular as it is.
Is this a popular episode?
Well, it scored, I think, a 7.
Right, okay.
It's alright. It's not one of the leading ones, but...
No, it should be denigrated more than what it is then.
I would say so.
It should be held up as an example of how attitudes have changed.
Maybe. Do you think there was any truth in Kirk's accusations?
I think they made it look like there might have been, because she thanks him.
But then how would he even know?
He wouldn't. No, I think he just made this garbage up.
Yeah. Then how do we explain Spock forgetting his visor? So it's either she's edged him away from it telepathically, he's completely out of character, forgotten it,
yeah, because
or having Kolos in his mind, it's distracted him and he's just not.
No, I think that's it. He's part Kolos, and Kolos doesn't need a visor,
so he's just not thought about it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Did you like his little symbol?
It was all right. Yeah.
Do you know what IDIC stands for?
No.
We'll get to that later.
Okay.
Some trivia.
Sure. I bet you can. Do the nerds buy those things at conventions or wear them at conventions?
I'll get to that as well.
Will you? Right. Okay. Of course they do. Of course they do.
Originally aired on the 18th of October 1968. It was the last episode directed by Ralph Sinensky, his 6th, and you can hear more about him on the podcast for This Side of Paradise. And I would say the less said about those point of view shots, the better, but you quite enjoyed them.
Well, I like the fact that we're trying something different.
Jean Lisette Arroeste was the writer. She sent the script for this unsolicited to the show, and it was purchased by the producers.
I'm not sure how she got away with that one.
She'd go on to write one more episode, but quite rightly has no other known involvement in television or movie. She's now 88 years old. Diana Muldaur played Miranda Jones. As you know, this is her second Star Trek role. You can hear more about her on the podcast for Return to Tomorrow, which also involved Spock being possessed.
Who played Kolos?
Nobody played Kolos. Okay. David Frankham played Larry Marvick, the designer of the Enterprise, his only Star Trek role. He's an English actor, maybe best known for voicing Sergeant Tibbs in the original animated 101 Dalmatians. He also appeared in shows like The Outer Limits and The Bold and the Beautiful, and he's now 95 years old.
Oh, well done.
Bob Bralver appeared in the second of his 3 Star Trek episodes as a human.
Bobby B.
Although he also appeared in shows like Macmillan and Wife and Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and directed episodes of shows like The A-Team and Knight Rider, and even wrote an episode of Kojak.
Give me a Columbo connection.
Most of his work was in stunts, and in the 70s he worked as the stunt coordinator for 3 episodes of Columbo. Of all the shows.
The only stunt I can think of is one where I think it's Peter Falk himself when he falls down the hill.
Yeah, it wasn't that stunt.
Okay.
The 3 episodes were Double Shock,
Yeah.
Publisher Perish,
Yeah.
the bomb thing.
The bomb, I suppose, yeah.
And Mind Over Mayhem with the robot.
Okay. I'm not sure he needs a stunt. Okay.
He's now 80 years old.
Yeah,
so that's our Columbo connection
Brilliant.
for this week.
That's a good one.
Trivia, okay, so this IDIC symbol wasn't in the script originally. It was inserted by Gene Roddenberry so he had something he could sell to fans, much to the distress and anger of the main cast.
Right, yeah.
And the dinner party scene had to be completely rewritten to de-emphasise it, because he had originally written it in as the main part of that scene.
Shill.
So there you go, that's the story. It stands for infinite diversity and infinite combinations, and it's a kind of a mantra for Star Trek fans.
Okay.
Dr. Jones was originally scheduled to be played by Jessica Walter, who's maybe best known for her work on Arrested Development.
Mm-hmm.
This was Eddie Paskey's final episode, leaving his total at 59. I think there's more to see, but this was the last one he filmed.
Sure. He
suffered a back injury when Spock attacked everybody, and he'd also been having trouble with headaches from the studio lights, so he stopped.
I wonder if he got any compensation for that.
Well, he hindered at work. Title of the episode comes from a poem by George Herbert called Jordan 1.
Right.
In terms of international titles, almost everyone, including in Japan, went with a near literal translation A near literal almost everyone, including over in Japan, went with a near literal translation, apart from the Germans, who somewhat unusually went with Die fremde Materie, which means the strange matter. Next week, it's the 6th episode of Season 3, Spectre of the Gun, with Kirk finally facing consequences for overstepping his boundaries.
Good.
In the meantime, you'll find us on social media, where we are at Trek Podcast on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. You can go to YouTube and watch the episodes there. I say watch, listen with a still image in front of you, or go to astartrekpodcast.com, where we have a post up for each and every show to leave your thoughts, reminiscences and complaints. And we'll see you all next week.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye bye.